Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures, powered by JDog Brands. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and a tactical treasure from their past that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I have the amazing pleasure of speaking with Phil Briggs. Phil is a combat camera Navy veteran, journalist, award-winning podcast host, and a voice actor. After transitioning out of the Navy, Phil made a name for himself in rock radio with radio shows in Providence, Salt Lake City, and the DC-Baltimore area, where he interviewed bands ranging from Aerosmith to ZZ Top. Now, Phil's the host of the nationally syndicated radio show Eye on Vets, where he speaks about life through the military veteran's point of view. Hello, Phil. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I'm really excited to talk to you. What an amazing
Thanks for the invite, Tracy.
Yeah. So can you talk about, a combat camera Navy veteran, that's exciting. Can you talk about your military service?
Yeah, indeed. It was not flashy or fancy or any of the wartime things that we've seen in the last 20 years of the GWAT era. It was a guy in the 90s that couldn't hold on to his radio job, went to the recruiter and realized he could be a photojournalist in the military. And, more than combat camera, I think that refers these days to the elite guys that go out in the war zones, walk outside the wire and get the stories. I was not that. I was just a run-of-the-mill Defense Information School photojournalist graduate stationed on the USS John C. Stennis during the 90s. And we found our own kind of, ways to make it interesting. Virginia Beach, I don't want to make light of like anything tragic in life, but we lost a lot of good men out there. And when I say we lost them, I mean, I went to the bar, I couldn't find them, I didn't have a ride home, I had to get back on base. It was really, it was a wonderful time to be a young guy, get on this aircraft carrier. It felt like Top Gun every day.
Oh, wow. I'm sure.
Yeah, they were bringing on the new F-18s. So a lot of what we did was just like these builders trials where they would take the ship out, try to test it to its limits, and, have a lot of fun and in the process. We went to St. Martin. We did a lot of Caribbean operating area stuff. We went to Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Wow.
Did some international diplomacy in Halifax where I believe we were drinking next to Russians. I'm pretty sure we had a beer drinking contest. There was, obviously I think they were Ukrainian actually, but they were, Russian accents and
right.
We didn't
sure.
They were sitting at one end of the bar and we're sitting at the other, and we could tell that we were from different nations and we weren't sure if we were friendlies. And so one guy like pointed at his beer and the other guy pointed at his beer, and then the other guy points at his watch, and they're like, oh, okay, we don't need to even speak the same language. You want to see if you can drink yours faster. And so they did.
No.
And a couple beers later, it went from like drinking out of the steins or the pints that we were drinking to like one guy pointing to the entire pitcher and then another guy pointing to his pitcher.
Oh, no. Well,
that was pretty much my service in a nutshell. It was a lot of fun. I learned to be a photojournalist and had a zeal for broadcasting, which is what I ended up doing when I got out of the service. Yeah. And, I went to rock radio, and the rest is history.
Right. So now you're the host for the radio show CBS Eye on Veterans. So how did that come about? How did you first become involved with the show? And can you share a favorite part of hosting that show for you?
Yeah. A nationally syndicated radio show about military veterans has not always been a thing. And back in 2017, I was working radio in the DC area, and a friend of mine, Chaz Henry, reached out to me after I'd submitted something on LinkedIn. I think it was I thought it was like a survey or something. It was looking for for journalists with military experience. And I filled out this brief questionnaire, and I got a call a couple weeks later from Chaz, and he's like, "Hey, Phil, I actually know who you are. I've listened to your show before. I know you do mornings, at a local radio station." He's like, "Would you be interested in doing something with military veterans?" And I remember having the conversation with Chaz, who is a Marine Corps public affairs officer. And I remember having the conversation with him about how I was unsure if I should take an interview with him because I'm not much of a veteran. I mean, I didn't go to war. I don't have any of these great combat stories. I don't know any generals. I'd been out of the military for a while. I'm not even sure I understood all the nomenclature and the verbiage that you have to use. I said I would really probably fail miserably at trying to cover the Pentagon. The national security mill space is full of educated professionals that really report on important stuff. I'm just a guy that was once in that likes rock bands and beer chugging contests. I mean, I'm not, some incredible reporter, but he's said, yeah, they're going to start this thing called connectingvets.com. It was owned by CBS Radio at the time. It's a website dedicated to the news and information that the veteran lifestyle and the veteran community wants to know about. It's not all hard-hitting news. It's not all political stuff. Sometimes they're just feel-good stories, or they're just interesting stories about veterans doing interesting dang things around the country. So I said, you know what? I like the sound of this. Let me try it out. And I think I did one news program, and it was not good. I think I tried to host a afternoon drive time news show, and I was way too casual. I was introducing senators as, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Gosh.
They didn't think it was starched up enough, but they said, "Hey, you're a great storyteller." And I actually found a story about a veteran that was canoeing the entire length of the Mississippi. He was going from Minnesota to New Orleans to raise awareness for something, and he had a book out. And I was like, "Hey, can we do an interview?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I don't really get in anywhere until, the end of the day." And I was like, "Well, no, I got to record it during workday hours." I was like, "Can we just record it from your canoe?" And so he put his phone down, and you can hear him stroke, and like birds and ducks are flying around.
my
And it was the
gosh.
most natural conversation because he had all the time in the world. He was just sitting in the canoe all day. I did that story and I submitted it, and Chaz was like, "You're not a news broadcaster, but you're a hell of a podcaster." He's like, "Why don't we just have you do podcasts?" So I did a podcast. It was called Vet Story. We did that for a few years. Did a documentary called To War and Back, which highlights Kirstie Ennis, the mountain climber amputee gal that's won the ESPN awards. I think you've probably seen her. Lovely blonde gal.
Yeah, I have heard of her.
Competitive mountain climber. She was in it along with a couple other war fighters, and it talked about the drugs and the combat cocktail that the VA was just forcing on vets during the height of the surge era of the global war on terrorism. And lo and behold, after doing all these things, CBS Eye on Veterans is a syndicated show that they'd started. And when the original host left, they said, "Phil, do you want to host the weekly magazine show?" And, I just worked at it. And over the last, it's been 4 years now, I guess, that we've been doing the show. CBS News syndicates it, and it airs on stations across the country. And it is also at connectingvets.com every week. And it's just a pleasure each week to get to know veterans, to talk to them. Jerry and JDog has been a guest of mine on this show. We've covered the trajectory of how he started that from a Jeep and a trailer full of junk. I
was there for that.
I was going to say, you were there. You were like, "Jerry, when are you going to get a job, man? What are you doing? This is crazy." I love each week getting to know a different veteran story, to hear something remarkable and fun. Just last week was probably my favorite episode of the year so far. And it was songwriters down in Nashville, Tennessee, and Operation Song. And the executive director, Mike Byer, is an Army combat veteran, former warrant officer, worked for the Combat Aviation Brigade of 101st Airborne. He told me his story of getting out, not feeling great about it, didn't want to retire. His body was failing, so he had to get out. But, he was mad. He didn't even go to his own retirement ceremony. And he like kind of hung on to that anger, and his son was getting ready to enlist in the Army. And he was trying to talk him out of it. He didn't want him to do it. And there was all these feelings. And he ended up going to Operation Song as a veteran. And they sat down with the songwriter. And in like 2 to 4 hours, just getting to know each other, this songwriter pulled out of him the words and the feelings of what it was like to be a father who is now facing his son enlisting, and just all the conflicted feelings. And the line that I love from the chorus is something to the effect of, one pair of boots goes to face the fire and the other one gets hung over the wire.
Wow.
And it's so neat, and it's so powerful. And it talks about the magic of how these songwriters in Nashville just turn these guys' lives, and these bittersweet moments, fun moments, exciting moments about being a machine gunner, walking outside the wire in Afghanistan. They take all these moments and they make these awesome songs out of it. And I just feel like in that represents the joy I have each week of when I get to get on a Zoom call, when I get to do an interview with a vet. You can uncover some really magic moments in people's lives. And as you know, from doing this show, sometimes people tell you things that you're just, you're just privileged to be there to hear it. And you're so damn glad you're recording it, because, in playback, sometimes it just hits you and you get the chills. So, veterans, great stories, a great bunch of people. And I love covering this thing for CBS Eye and veterans.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. This podcast started as just a way to promote our TV show, and it's really evolved, and it's turned into an amazing platform to give our military veterans, male spouses, and active duty service members just a platform to talk about their service, and a chance to share with America, civilians and their fellow veterans, what it was like, their experience, and when they were serving and what they're doing now. Because as you said, a lot of them are doing amazing things, servicing their communities and helping their fellow veterans. And to hear their stories, again, it's like you said, it is a privilege. And I do feel privileged. I hear some amazing stories, and some of my podcasts have been, very, very telling, very emotional podcasts. And it's been really amazing. And I love that this platform is available, and yours as well is really, really great. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures podcast powered by JDog Brands. We are currently speaking to Phil Briggs, who is a combat camera Navy veteran, journalist, and award-winning podcast host. He has a weekly national syndicated radio show called Eye on Vets. And through the program, Phil speaks about life through the military veteran's point of view, covering a wide range of topics from PTSD to job openings and opportunities available to his fellow veterans. Eye on Vets can be found on the air on radio stations in your community and can also be listened to on all your favorite streaming platforms. And for those of you overseas, Eye on Vets is broadcast to military service members by the American Forces Network, or AFN. To find out even more about the program, you can check it out at connectingvets.com. There you can email Phil or contact him if you'd like to be a guest on Eye on Vets. You can reach him on Twitter at Phil Briggs Vet. So check it out. And now back to the podcast. This leads us into your treasure. So I would really love to know what your treasure is and what you're going to share with us today.
Yeah. Is it strange? It doesn't have anything to do with the military. Like, I mean, I wanted to find something in my home that was valuable, that was military related. I don't have anything.
That's, you know what? It's totally fine. It could be anything
But
that has helped you along the way.
right, right. The really cool, valuable stuff on the aircraft carriers, they don't let you take home. I mean, I
Right.
tried. I was going to see if I could get one of the radar systems or if they just give me a plane. No, they didn't. I do have, that's part of our kind of some family memoirs, this old pocket watch
Oh,
that
wow.
I received from my dad.
Uh,
It's my grandfather's,
Yeah,
and
that is
it
really neat.
is, he's kept it in this expensive looking, but really quite cheap little
But
glass cover
I
here.
love how it's showcased in there. That is just really cool.
It's a pocket watch that I looked up, and all I can really learn from it is that it's from the Illinois Watch Company. It's a 17 jewel watch known as the Great Northern Special. And I
Wow.
believe this would have been a gift from the railroad to my grandfather, who was a train conductor.
Oh, wow. That is really incredible. Yeah, the train
So,
conductors, they always had a pocket watch. That is really cool. I love it.
yeah. So it is, at least from one kind of rough check with the serial number, it's about 100 years old.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I kind of thought that was cool. And in fact,
That is
did you
cool.
even know that that it's the railroad industry that really gave us a sense of time? And I don't know this to be fact, but I read a very interesting article, kind of a historical article, on the fact that before we were before we were connected by trains and interested in taking trains, and everything came via trains, and trains really affected our daily lives with merchandise and, all these things. Before those days, we didn't really tell time a lot. We said, we'll see you in the morning. We'll see you in the afternoon. We'll have an
Sure.
appointment. I'll meet you there midday. Well, I mean, people could have been waiting for hours for meetups or for appointments.
Right.
And when the trains came, they had to have a specific time things would happen, because a train
True.
had to be on time, and you had to
Right.
know what time to get there
To
to
the train.
board the
Yeah.
dang thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's because of the railroad industry that we even bothered starting to tell time to each other a whole lot.
Wow. That's a fun fact. I love it. But
Yeah.
what a great piece of history and great um, passing down of a family heirloom that you now have. I mean, I think that's amazing. I love it. It's beautiful, and the fact that it's kept in that case, it's in great condition. That's really neat.
Fun fact about Grandpa Bill Briggs. My parents are from northern Minnesota. Railroad was vital to the Iron Range at the time, because, of course, iron ore made steel, and steel
Sure,
made, you know, guns and tanks and bombs and, everything in the World War II era. That whole swath of the country, Michigan, Minnesota, the iron ore belt up there was vital to American commerce. And in fact, is still, I mean, it should be more important than it probably is today, but it's a crucial spot where the iron ore reserves in our country are.
sure,
And my grandfather worked in the railroad, of course, which serviced the mines, and the mines were critical to getting all the iron ore, to the smelting plants out in Pittsburgh and out wherever it was going to be made into steel for buildings and whatnot. And he was a short guy. And they said the train would go by, and conductor Bill Briggs wasn't always tall enough to be seen out the window. And then my dad had a friend that would always tease him and be like, hey, Ron, I saw your dad today. Yeah, I saw a car driving through Hibbing with nobody in it. I knew it had to be your dad.
Oh, that's
So,
funny.
so that's Grandpa for you. Thank you
Oh,
for the watch, sir.
oh, yeah, that's awesome. What an awesome watch. Veterans, military family members, if you're looking for an incredible opportunity, I would encourage you to check out jdogbrands.com. If you're interested in business ownership, If you're missing what was the best thing about your military service, being the camaraderie of fellow veterans, JDog is a place for you. If you go to jdogbrands.com, you can find out everything about JDog, including how to apply for franchise opportunities in either JDog Junk Removal and Hauling or our new division, Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. And if you're looking to just be employed by JDog, we have over 300 locations, close to 115 franchise owners, 90% veteran owned. You can go to the career page and fill out the form and see where we're hiring all across the country. And we connect you with your local JDog in your territory. So check us out, jdogbrands.com. So do you have any pieces of advice for, fellow veterans who may be struggling with just transitioning out of the military or trying to find their way after their military service?
Yeah. And, it's something we've covered. I mean, I've covered for years now on CBS Eye and veterans. And sometimes, we talk about a modality, hyperbaric oxygen for TBIs, and we talk about,
Right.
a medication, or we'll talk about like the benefit of music, like we just spoke about, or we'll talk about a retreat or drum circle with the drummer of Def Leppard, Rick Allen. He knows trauma. He lost his arm. We always talk about a lot of these things for veterans, and we say that, there's all these things that can help your mind get right and to help your transition be better. And I think sometimes, like, I don't know, I do all the interviews and I've read all the reports and seen so much research in like the clinical aspect of veteran transition. But sometimes I think sometimes what we really need is to be honest with ourselves. And I think sometimes we need to take some tough medicine. And that is, transition isn't exclusive to the veteran community. Transition isn't exclusive to, to people that have had trauma in their life. That's not exclusive to the veteran community either. We need to be honest with ourselves. And if I had advice, I'd say, man, you're going to be about 3 things in your life. Okay. The military was just one of them. You got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, man, it's okay to be something new now and to give yourself a break. Stop defining yourself as just that one thing you were when you were 20 something and bulletproof and, tall and handsome and had all your hair. Man, you're going to be old. You're not always going to have a full head of hair. You're going to get wrinkled. You're going to walk instead of run. At some point, you have to just accept, man, that it's okay to be something new. I'm not the same guy I was at 50 something as I was when I was 20 something. I'm just not. And I've learned that my new cool thing that I want to be is an awesome dad or an awesome journalist or an awesome soccer coach or, just a guy that can find a good parking space at Home Depot on a Saturday when I got stuff to do. Like, I know it's not as cool as rappelling out of helicopters and kicking in doors or, working on the fob or hanging with your buddies, on a ship for months at a time and doing whatever it was your military occupational specialty was. Life isn't always going to be like that. And you have to learn to, I think, embrace it, to stop belly aching that, stuff's different than it was when I was in the military and I don't understand these new places. Man, do yourself a favor and just get out of your own way and embrace it. Go find the thing you love about it. Go find the thing you love about being a dad. Go do that thing you love about being a soccer coach. Go explore a career or an interest that you've never thought of. So what? You didn't do it in the military, man. If you're retiring or you're getting out and you're 30 something years old, not even 40 yet, you got a ton of time to master a second thing. And maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the military. That's okay. That's cool. Like, there's a million things out there you can do. If you're going to make the transition, realize you're not the first one to have to do it. It's not terrible for you. It's not worse for you than it is for anybody else. And if you're trying to make a transition with trauma, guess what? There are tons of people out there that have done that too. People that had to come from the inner city and, they knew people that got shot. people that went through a nasty divorce and she's got kids and now she's trying to, become a nurse and make a new career for herself. Man, everybody hits the wall. Everybody has a dent and a ding, and everybody needs to be about 3 things in their lifetime, So
Wow.
suck it up, embrace it, and have some fun with it. Look at that as the joy, not the bittersweet, the rest of life sucks because I'm not in the army. Believe me, the rest of the life is going to be a lot of fun.
Great advice. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We all go through stuff. And I think the reason why it's a huge thing in the military to transition is because, they've seen a lot, they've done a lot, and it's unlike anything that a civilian would experience. And I think that's why there's the big focus on it. And, but when you think about it, there's a lot of resources out there. And I think that,
Yeah.
For our veterans that are transitioning, I think they need to tap into those resources and utilize them and have them help them along the way. Definitely. But yeah,
the only direction I've ever gone effectively looking in the rearview mirror is backwards.
It's true.
And in life, you can't do that. You can't go backwards, man. So go find something to be excited about, something, challenge yourself, do that thing you've always wanted to love, or pursue that passion that you've always had. And, let's just hope it's a little more than a YouTube video and a book. I know that those are 2 of the top things people want to do, but I'm talking about, go find a job interest where you can get regularly paid too.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's great advice. So, this has been awesome speaking with you. But before you go, how can people find, Eye on Vets and listen? And how can they find you?
Yeah, indeed. Let me see. You can always find it at connectingvets.com. CBS Eye on Veterans has a page within that website, and you can see the podcast there. You can search CBS Eye on Veterans and find the podcast just about anywhere you look. I mean, from all the podcast players on Apple, on Google. You can find it in Spotify, but it's really easy to get there. Comes out every Friday, comes out each week. And you can find me on the Twitter, and I'm at Phil Briggs Vet.
Okay, awesome. I have a question for you, actually. So do veterans ever try to connect with you to say, hey, I'd like to be on your podcast? Do you entertain that, or do you go out and find your guests?
Oh my gosh. I take them any way I can get them. I've had some great email solicitations. Most recently, I have a guy that I have to reach out to. Shout out to Greg, I think it is. Just emailed me the other day. He's a cab driver, we don't have cabs anymore, do we? We have Uber. He's an Uber driver outside, I want to say Bragg in North Carolina or something, but he's an older salt, and he was in himself for 25 years. And he says the stories he gets from some of these guys, or the life advice he gives them. Like, when you get this guy as your Uber driver, you're probably going to get a little bit of dad medicine with it. And it's brilliant. And so I'm getting ready to reach out to him. He just found me on Twitter. So however you reach me, whether it's connectingvets.com, whether you, I always put my contact stuff in the show notes. So, feel free to reach out if you got a story, or of a good veteran-owned business, a good veteran doing great things in the community. Yeah, always looking for somebody for the guest chair.
That's great. And thank you so much for having us on. I think we've been on twice, once about JDog and another one to promote our show. So we really appreciate you helping us out with that. But it was great of you to have Jerry on. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn so much from the JDog example. Again, you ask about transition. You know what? You want to know how to transition? Just go find something in your neighborhood people need. Jerry inspired me, incidentally. You guys started with just taking out, people's stuff to the dump for them.
Right.
In talking about that, it inspired me to start a little small business. And last summer, we debuted out of a Volkswagen van, Sunset Slush of Frederick County, and it's classic Italian ice. It's a hand cart. I just wheel the thing out the side of the Scooby-Doo van, and we go to the pools and the lakes and food truck nights in our neighborhoods around here. And I just follow Jerry's line of thinking there. Find a
Yeah.
business you want to do, find something you're
Right.
passionate and you enjoy. My
Right.
kids love Sunset Slush that we get at the beach every summer in North Carolina. We bought it from them. And then now we just sell the ice in our neighborhood. And it's great. And Jerry's other advice to me was like, make sure your wife is involved somehow or is interested in the project.
Yes.
Because if you spend all your time doing a job and they're not into it, then you're separate from your family.
Yeah.
And the kids come with us and sell the Italian ice.
Yeah.
My wife is with me, scooping alongside me, and it's become Operation Family Business out of a Volkswagen van. And
I love it.
You know, right there again, that's one of the reasons I had JDog on CBS Eye and Veterans, because it's that example so many of us can learn from. Just go do something, go find something that you can love and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. When we started JDog, it was everybody in the family was all in. So we had both daughters doing stuff, and Jerry and I were definitely business partners way back at the beginning, as we still are today. So yeah, it's great.
Back before it was glamorous and y'all were on TV. You guys just remember the good old days, just coming home smelling like junk.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I did a lot of the back office and customer service stuff, so I wasn't out in the field too much. A couple times though, definitely. Well, Phil, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. And it was so great to see you and hear about your treasure and your service, and really great.
Always fun, Tracy. I look forward to having you all back this year. We're going to find out more about what JDog's doing and maybe how to take advantage of one of the other franchises you guys offer. So,
oh yeah, carpet cleaning and floor care.
Right.
That is gaining legs as we speak.
Good stuff, Tracy. Appreciate the time. You guys take care. Give Jerry my best.
I will. Take care, Phil. Thanks so much.
All right.